All right, ladies and gents, this brings me tremendous pleasure to do the new moon specifically for the United States chart. Okay, I've been doing more and more charts for cities and places. Astrocartography has been one of the main ones, and people that have been coming and joining. So I'm going to do the USA chart because the new moon in Gemini is going to happen at 16 degrees, but the Venus star point is going to happen at 14 degrees. So I want to ask my guest if you can hear me. Boom, you can hear me. Awesome. And thank you. I appreciate y'all. So that's it. Let's do the do. Okay, we have the Venus star point, which is coming up on the 4th. That's two fingers, but on the 4th of June. And that's going to happen about 2 days before the new moon in Gemini. And I really feel like the main first point that I got to bring up is this right here. Okay. The United States has a rising sign at 14 degrees Sagittarius. So this is already starting an opposition, bringing in I would say, a healthy fusion and blend of contrast that's going to really open up our sense of freedom from the internal space. And so this is really starting, this Venus star point in Gemini is starting a 100+ year cycle, which kind of began more like 2022 in Libra. And there's a couple things I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to do a live with Eileen and we'll kind of break into that a little bit more on our other live. With that being said, it's continuing in its opposition, greatly enhancing personal freedom in the realms of creativity, neural links with AI, using different things like ChatGPT and the advancements of GPT to get your entrepreneurial careers to actually sell. This is a lot of communication with our body language, me moving my hands right now, doing something like this, right? Sign language, I love you, whatever. I'm thirsty, stuff like this. All these different forms of communication are going to have a brand new rebirth in this United States chart. And I feel like when I look at this, the key is the United States chart. If you look here, it's in the 7th house of the marketplace. So the marketplace being where you make sales. And in Gemini, it's like it can be a little reckless and irresponsible when it's selling itself, when it's speaking about its products, whether and especially digital products in the marketplace. These are one of the things that are going to be very important to understand that the United States on the positive side has a beautiful opportunity to start to tell the truth through this opposition because many of the lies and the facts are getting ready to change and go through a brand new cycle. Like I said, this 100+ year cycle, meaning none of us have been alive. Okay, not all of us will be alive by the time this fully manifests. And I think this is something very interesting to consider where what our grandparents saw and the programs and conditionings that they gave and passed down to us are not going to exist for our sons and daughters and nephews and nieces and great nieces and grandchildren. It's going to be completely brand new within how we sell within the marketplace. And so what I think was one of the key things that's happening here is going to be less polite niceties. Okay. If you're out and you're doing foreign travel, so Sagittarius rising being foreign and abroad, and Gemini being a part of your local environment. This new moon, we have a manifestation period with the power of this Venus star point in Gemini. This fixed star has a lot more power than the new moon by itself, okay, than any of the planets. This is something that is more karmically involved in the weaving of our destiny, especially the destiny of the United States. We'll kind of bring into that. So there's going to be less polite niceties. There's going to be more direct communication. And this will be invisible to the enemies in plain sight. And that's because Jupiter, right? So if you look at the chart here, the United States chart has a Jupiter in Cancer. And this kind of really hides a lot of the unseen enemies because Jupiter already is naturally about the unseen enemies. And just considering that right now we have Jupiter in Gemini, while this is happening, we kind of have to really take into play that the ruler of the rising sign, of our personality, of our identity, of how we identify with ourselves, a lot of that personality is something that we can show somebody something in order to hide our true emotions, our true feelings. And that's what Jupiter in Cancer kind of does within this particular area. So this new Venus star point is going to use the more logical, factual-based information and informative processing system that Gemini has with Sagittarius and get it to start being more bold to show its true emotions, true feelings. Because Jupiter Cancer is somebody who naturally has a tremendous ability to introspect, which allows it to be more empathetic and compassionate and gentle with others. So you see this in little small pockets of the US, but as a grand scale, emotional repression is another element. And if we were to look into a lot of this Cancer, the sun is in Cancer, right? And so that's one element. We have a Cancer stellium. We have the sun in Cancer. You have Jupiter in Cancer. You have Mercury in Cancer. And then Mercury in Cancer is one of the main ones, all in the eighth house. So keeping things very private, aka our feelings and how we truly feel, rather than giving somebody an emotion that actually only is masking our true desire, and it's masking what the manipulation that we go through on the ancestral guilt scale. Okay, so there's a lot of guilt that I have as an American, for our ancestors killing an entire population, complete genocide of, let's say, the Indians or the Native Americans, the tribes that existed in Mexico and the United States prior to this chart even coming into its fruition. And so what I'm saying is this crab in a barrel mentality, like you see up on screen, of pulling everybody down when they start to break free from the emotional oppression, is going to be a big switch up for the Venus star point and a beautiful positive outlook, I think, on the new moon in Gemini for the United States chart. Um, and there's going to be a tremendous amount of liberty. So let me kind of keep moving forward in here. Do be aware that a lot of facts will be revealed through the media. You'll start to see discrepancies and trickery and foolery, especially during this election time, because again, high figures, the sun being politicians, being in Cancer, right now when this Venus star point happens again, the sun will be 14 degrees along with the Venus star point in Gemini. And so we're going to be a little more open with the media, a little more honest, a little more truthful. The people are going to have a little bit more of what to say. Their voice will gain more power, rather than while it's in Cancer, where uh, what the politicians do, what people in power do, actually stays hidden. And that's how the United States chart was built. But during this Venus star point, it's come 2 degrees away from the new moon in Gemini. I think it's going to be longer than a 6 month regular new moon manifestation. I'm just telling it up front, because again, this is a 100-year plus cycle, and this hasn't existed while we've been alive yet. And we're moving away from Venus star point being a Martian plutonic focus and drive from the planetary energies pouring into us, to now a Venetian, and things are going to be a little more simple, a little more harmonic, and we don't really want to um, break that harmony in a way where our irrational fears and the risk that we take in entrepreneurship, in the ways we sell ourselves, sell our voice, sell our body language, it's going to happen in a way where you're going to find on this Venus star point, especially for people in America, that in the U.S.A. natal chart, um, you're going to find, completely lost my thought. You're going to find that we're now more willing to speak up on these irrational fears and share with the people that we're romancing with, okay? Especially people you're romancing, especially people you're in love with. You're going to start sharing those insecurities. You're going to start sharing those ideas you have to birth something that is honestly a little risky. It's honestly a little dangerous. It's definitely scary. And the beauty behind this is, you'll see right here that your peers, your neighbors, and your teachers, the people you're teaching, they're going to want to try to attack you and bring you down like that crabs in the barrel. So just to be warning of that. And that kind of shows a little bit with this Venus and Gemini being ruled by the 12th house. So Venus and Gemini, the Venus star point is in Gemini, meaning this Venus will be very bright. What we must know is Venus until June 29th, very critical date, is Venus is invisible. So this Venus star point is happening before June 29th, meaning the impacts, the effects, it's going to stay hidden until after June 29th. So really more like July, and then it'll kind of keep mid-July, we'll start to make a lot of sense of what are the blessings and the earnings that we've been having by trying to sell ourselves, taking a risk on our entrepreneurial endeavors, on our ideas that are unique only to us, not something that has been given to us, not something that we're staying in an observation space, because the south node of the US chart, if I'm not mistaken, yes, it's in Aquarius. And so this is the sign where the United States has a past life where we are, as a people, naturally wanted to observe. But at what degree is that right there? The south node is happening at 7 degrees. So the Venus star point is 7 degrees away. But more importantly, Jupiter in Gemini currently in the sky is a lot closer to that south node. So it's going to trine the release and the surrender of us just continuously being an observer of what's happening abroad, what's happening with other cultures, what is happening with unique societies that we view as unique as an individual. Like I may view Indonesian people as unique in their culture and their society. I may view the Germans as unique in their culture and their society. So it's like we're going to that Jupiter and Gemini is going to help free us and give us the wisdom past June 9th to June 12th when Jupiter goes visible. Right now it's invisible. So its power, it's still enhancing things, still helping us blossom and expand creatively. But what it's trying to advise us before it reveals its blessings is that you can't go seek a source of nurture and water and life and intuition outside of yourself. You have to embrace and water your own intuition, water your own imagination, water your own sense of freedom. And that way, when it becomes visible, it's going to reward you after June 12th, after June 9th to June 12th, when Jupiter comes visible. So that's something very, very key and critical. Understand that when Venus is combust, which is combust right now because you see the sun is at 14 degrees Gemini on this Venus star point, and Venus is at 14 degrees Gemini. So Venus is kind of losing her power, which means she's losing her power from these invisible blessings, the 12th house right here, as well as how the risks you're taking are actually pouring into your cup in a very positive, potent, and just tremendously expansive manner. Now, the sun is not. The sun is being served by Venus. And so, what's beautiful about this is this third house is a house of obviously communication, but it's the house of courage. And so the sun is already a politician based energy. So you're going to see during the elections, this being a start point, November's elections, this is going to be one of the boldest elections that we've seen yet. This is the kind of election area where, like, if there was a woman running, like, she could win. She could literally take it by sharing her thoughts if she's doing it uniquely different than everybody else. Where in other cases it couldn't happen. And if it's not that, it's just somebody who has very eccentric and unique ideas on that. When the politicians and the presidencies come later, after this Venus star point starts to manifest 6 months later with the new moon in Gemini, you're going to see something very surprising, whether it's Trump becoming the president again, whether it's Biden just literally croaking over on the stand. You're going to see something very unexpected. I really believe that at the elections, something that we're not expecting is going to happen. But more outside of the politician space, you and your own personal power, you're going to be willing to speak. And wait, you heard the bird? You're going to be willing to speak in ways that you've never been able to and felt comfortable to prior. And what you're going to realize, you're going to hear your angel messages kind of saying 333, something is being poured too far outside of yourself. Because this, I don't think I typed this, but it's Rohini. Okay, I didn't type it, but you're going to have an enhanced creativity with pre-existing projects. And there's going to be new solutions to market beyond the fear. And I talked to you about that fifth house and that 12th house. A lot of this is about the Rohini Nakshatra, which is what's happening in Sidereal or Vedic astrology simultaneously. And Rohini is all about watering your own beauty, watering your own affection, giving affection and love to yourself, to your own ideas. Water your ideas, water your garden, and not to look for it outside. That's the part, the shadow element of Gemini on this U.S. chart. The United States natal chart has that Sagittarius where when things get tough, sometimes it can run away. And that's between Gemini and Sagittarius. So this opposition, this fusion, this blend of the Venus star point happening in Gemini on the Gemini new moon as well, 2 days prior, is going to get you to stop running away and seeking solutions outside of yourself. And instead, the opposite is going to blend so that we start finding the answers deep within our own soul. And that's going to enhance your creativity and your ability to activate your intuition. And also, I have it right here, 3, 2, 1. Okay. You're going to be able to see through the media manipulation. Okay. This is a third eye type transit. Your pineal gland on the United States, everybody in the United States is going to have a complete third eye awakening as Pluto and Capricorn gets ready to implode. And the capitalistic nature of the United States starts to crash. The illusions and the boundaries of the facades of people in your community, your teachers, your neighbors, the people, your siblings, the people you are naturally engaging with, that you're talking to on a daily and you're solving problems together, all of them are going to start to move beyond the traditional working styles. And they're going to start to consider and think, I want to work abroad because of that Sagittarius opposition is going to happen in the United States. So we're going to want to work abroad, we're going to work online, but it's going to go deeper than that because people are already doing that, right? And what I think and believe is you're going to start creating different AI influencer products where I'm going to just be a creator where you're not going to literally see my face. You're going to just see somebody who in an AI fashion represents me, or somebody that I can seemingly overnight make famous in a way where you don't have to work as long and hard, because um, Gemini is not necessarily about hard work. It's about smart work. And so this being a start point, when you look at some of the simplicity, different forms of AI and different tools are going to start using and creating influencers, especially for people who are teachers of, logic or even spirituality, who are shy and they don't necessarily, they don't like I was born with a skill to teach like this. I'm just on YouTube, I'm talking to you, I'm sharing my thoughts, I'm sharing my research, which a lot of that third house in the sun is about, aka Venus is combust behind the sun. It's about research. And I'm sharing and voicing my opinions, not really worrying too much about who is going to judge them. Because this Venus star point, now that it's activating in Venus, it is literally going beyond the judgment of other people and their ideas. And so one of the ways we're going to do that is do different AI tools in alternate realities where we already see this stuff is getting so real, it's getting so convincing that you're watching models and people who are positioning themselves and selling something that you're buying because you're looking, you're watching, and they're now sending you more advertisements automatically through different bots and robots on the internet, right? So you see this, and I feel like people who are shy, who never wanted to get behind the camera, they're going to be the ones starting to create a different AI type influencer. And this is going to bring us a couple of different things. One, there's going to be less trust when it comes to subjective governing facts. Okay, so what I mean by subjective governing facts, if you look at the United States chart, a lot of it is Cancer. There's a Cancer Sun, it's a Cancer Jupiter. Okay, its entire wisdom is subjective to how it feels, when it feels, what it feels, and it flows and it ebbs up and down like the waves of the ocean. And that's not very reliable. It's only as honest as it has been able to reflect and introspect. And so if you look at the United States with that Mars and Gemini that they have, which is still what, 7 degrees away during this Venus star point and this Venus new moon. 7 degrees is a close enough orb, especially considering that the Venus star point is more powerful than the new moon. And so, considering that it's more powerful, Mars and Gemini really fails. It's very chaotic. It's erratic. Its mind is all over the place. We've had that transit for like 8 months in the world, and everybody didn't know what to think. Everybody didn't know what to do, and it showed us how much how reliant we were on the people in our environment, on our society, on our media outlets, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. It showed us how they run us in a way that is, honest to God, unhealthy and toxic. Now, that is a part of the natural United States chart, and it's in the seventh house. So, meaning this is the people selling you stuff, then they're just lying about who they are. They're lying. They're not being pure souls. They're just giving you facts through science and even potentially through religion, but they're reciting the religion, but they're not living the practices of the religion. And that's the Sagittarius rising that actually the United States have, where us as a personality, we have to live the experience. We can't just intellectualize the experience. So I think in a positive element, the United States will be able to start to live the experience of spirituality, of religion, of what they're preaching to other people, rather than just preaching it because they read it in a book and now they think they're the masters of it. There's a brand new beginning with the Venus star point Gemini and the new moon in Gemini happening for the United States church. And I think this is very powerful. Like, there's going to be less trust in other people telling you what to do and what's right and what's wrong, and more internal trust when it comes to intuitive insights. All right. So I truly believe this. And one of the things that I think that as well is going to happen that's pretty awesome with this Venus star point is more friends are going to be created in the spaces abroad. You're going to start making chunky money because this is happening in the eighth house. So you're going to begin to invest in friendships online, friendships within groups, Facebook groups, Discords, memberships. You can join our membership. You can come check us out. You're going to be pooling your resources And when I say pulling resources, you're gonna, because it's Jupiter's in Gemini, you're gonna start thinking, how can I invest and start buying things abroad? Whether that is manipulating the stock markets and deciding, wait, if I buy stocks in Walmart in Mexico versus buying stocks in Walmart in the United States, I'm having literally a 35% more yield in what I buy because of the looting happening in the United States. It's not happening in Walmarts like that here in Mexico. And so I'm telling you for a fact right now, like flat fact investing, you can invest in stock markets in Mexico that are worth more than they are in the United States. So you can take that same dollar and start to be courageous with investing abroad. And you're going to make chunky gains that are going to help your generational wealth. These are things that are going to start happening with this Venus star point. And because again, remember, if I showed you above before, it's happening in the 12th house. So Venus is the 12th house and the 5th house. So stock market is the 5th house, 12th house is doing it across the borders from the country and the homeland that you're actually from. So I think this is very positive. Now, what you need to watch out for is the pooling of resources to be aware of intellectual plagiarism, which I think is nothing brand new. But what's going to happen differently is now there are no laws with, if I'm Kim Kardashian, there's no laws protecting me as for you creating an influencer look-alike like Kim Kardashian. Her name isn't necessarily protected. Her as an the actors are not protected if you start generating an AI model of Denzel Washington. Or you generate an AI model of Donald Trump. You can just do and be him, and you can't really get in trouble. So be careful, beware with the intellectual plagiarism and the theft of identities, okay? Especially of people in the spiritual community, because the United States has that Sagittarius rising. So you pretending to be Sadhguru, I feel, is going to have more karmic implications that are going to backfire in a very negative way. And I think in the early scales, this will begin to happen. Okay. So now on another thing, I would say that one of the warnings I have for the United States is the connection with God will be disrupted, okay? And it will be a little more deceiving. Humans will overcome this in the long run. And when I say the connection with God, I'm saying like right now, Jupiter in Gemini is going to enhance divinity from a scientific perspective and lens. And one of the things that you could say is the inner talks that we have with God, right? It's going to have you start to seek the guru within yourself. It's going to have you start seeking gurus externally. It's going to happen both ways because Gemini is both inner and outer. It's light and it's dark. And so it's going to have you start seeking alternative forms of meditation like Qigong and Tai Chi. Again, we're doing that in our membership. This Sunday, we're doing ancestral guilt healing the ancestral guilt of the massacres, the murders, the church, and your dedication to sacrifice yourself for your parents, your sisters, your siblings, and think you have to give everything to them because of this sacrificial and Catholic type connection to guilt. We're doing that healing this Sunday. So it's a one-time event, $34. All right. So past life healing, these things are going to happen, and you're going to see things like with the sun in the U.S. chart just passed Gemini at 8 degrees. And you see right here, Gemini has Uranus and Gemini at 8 degrees. And these are going to be things like using technology to start to create neural links. Okay, you see at the bottom. And these neural links are going to pose themselves in the beginning as technological advancements. But what's going to really happen is they're going to start to have a little bit of mind control, and it's gonna, I don't know when this is gonna happen, but it's gonna take some turns towards mind control. They're gonna alter your hormones, they're gonna alter your nervous system, and it's gonna send little pulsations of anxiety, pulsations of the right vagus nerve to make you feel a little more anxious in the beginning when you start connecting to different technologies like a neural link connected to an AI bot, and y'all thinking together in the same line. And when you move your finger, it moves its finger. And more people are going to start to become consciously aware of this, and the advancements are going to start happening more in the actual local neighborhoods and environments for the common folk. And so when that happens, you have to be careful as the tech that's posing as advancements becoming a disruptor, okay, to your willpower and your ability to see beyond. And again, I think this is a long-term thing, but I think you're going to see it's going to happen to you in a negative before you understand what's happening. So when I look at this Venus star point and things happening with the 12th house and the 5th house abroad, and Jupiter's in Gemini, again, abroad, the Sagittarius rising on the United States chart, abroad, okay, and taking trips and journeys deeper within your own meditations, you're going to realize it's going to be new visa regulations. And with these visa regulations, there's going to be closures and openings, okay, not just foreignly, but domestically within your own country. And you're going to have trouble entering and exiting your own state. So if I'm from the state of California, I'm not going to be able to go to Texas on a road trip and drive there without certain permissions, without certain guidelines and certain permits. I'm not going to be able to enter certain parks and recreations, whether maybe even as a foreigner, I'm going to have to start paying if I'm a foreigner to enter a national park rather than being able to just go in there. You're going to start seeing that different technologies like this are going to distract you, and they're going to do it via fear, because Mars and Gemini is still in the United States chart. You see that right there. Mars is erratic in Gemini. And so it's in the eighth house it's in the seventh house. So this is literally about controlling people's minds by reading their thoughts, understanding very clearly what they want, and being able to provide what they need, but maybe not giving an equal exchange in return. And what's going to happen is this is going to create a certain fear, because you're going to think and believe that you said something, that you were doing something, and it's going to be completely not yours, rather than a thought that was projected into your mind and believed that it was your own thought. And this is going to be something that has already been happening in the United States, especially when you look at the social values of your family's dynamic and how they have influenced you and put you on the healing journey that you're on right now. Probably if you're watching this channel, hitting the thumbs up. And so this is going to be more media fear control. But if I look at this on the positive, it's going to start having more independent media outlets where you can get more accurate and factual information, understanding that Gemini and facts are always subject to change. And so that's always the complication with a fact. So it's going to start getting us to cut away from having a factual based logic mindset where if this is true, then it's true. And it's going to be like, I'm a little more open and I'm not going to judge this truth so critically as being something just in my life, in my own mindset, with the pod mind of the people in my community environment. I'm not going to be so critical on that. I'm going to think now a little more broadly and combine the intellectual understanding of multiple nations, cultures, and societies, especially abroad, into my own individual thinking. So this is going to be something that I feel is going to happen at the Venus star point in the Gemini new moon as a positive if you decide to use it that way. Otherwise, there will be new visa regulations. So do be mindful of that. I've seen it already happening here in Mexico when it came to me getting my residency visa. I got my residency visa. That process is actually changing. It's altering tremendously, drastically. The United States is very difficult to get a visa if you're a foreigner. I think that these things might shift and change. Whether it becomes easier or harder, that's not up for me to really say. But what will happen, there will be a shift in the regulations without a doubt. A shift in the laws, part of that seventh house Gemini you see right here, without a doubt. And it will be probably easier for some and harder for others. And I don't have more information on that in the moment. But what you will see is, Eileen, can you pass me that water, please? What you will see is a massive surge in citizens changing the generational homeland. Now, this is critical, okay? People are going to be leaving the United States without a doubt on this chart. You see it, it's very obvious. Thank you. You see it, it's very obvious. Hit the thumbs up. I drink some water. Now, separate from that, there's going to be a new start to generational wealth and generational conditionings by families moving abroad and moving their homeland, because Cancer is the homeland. You see this Cancer stellium here. And the homeland is going to shift. It's going to change. It's going to have a more international focus. Now, you see Jupiter in Cancer for the natural United States chart. Okay, great. Look at the United States. It's full of a lot of different cultures, like in its own homeland. That's a part of it, especially with the Sag rising, having to Sagittarius rising being other cultures, having to be a part of ruled by Cancer in its own homeland. So you see that now. Now, what's going to happen with this Venus star point and the Gemini new moon? 6 months from now, you're going to see if you look at the stats, the facts, everything Gemini related, and you collect the information, you will notice a surge in citizenship abroad. People who are American citizens will decide to either relinquish their residency, relinquish their citizenship, to give up their taxes and their obligation to abide by the governmental structures, laws, and regulations. They're going to give that up. They're going to renounce it. I've thought about it for myself. Whether I do it or don't, that's a different story. They're going to renounce it. And if not that, they're going to have dual citizenship. They're going to become a citizen or a resident in a completely different country, whether through investing or whether through marriage, whether through having a child in another country. And they're ultimately going to be resetting the generational. Again, remember, this Venus star point is 100+ year cycle. So don't think about this as an overnight process, but somebody has to be the first person in the family to go ahead and move abroad. You feel me? And so you're going to be more willing to take risks, you're going to be more willing to take leaps of faith, especially, and also to disrupt. Okay, you're going to become a disruptor. Now, last couple things. I think the last thing I have here for the Venus star point: more empathetic dialogue. Okay, learning to be a pure soul in a world that is brutal sometimes, especially with the speech, right? Like, you know, a lot of hate speech happens. As much as they say freedom of speech, how free is your speech in the United States? This is something that I feel is going to shift. It's going to drastically alter. Whether that's one of the reasons that starts to push people out of the United States, because they realize it's not as free. They realize that when they started visiting other countries, that wow, like these people live with a lot less restriction. These people live with a lot more freedom. And the United States, as a people with a Sagittarius rising, we naturally want and desire that freedom. And so again, Sagittarius rising is the focal point with this Venus star point because it's happening at 14 degrees and Sagittarius right here is at 12. So it's the closest one. So us in our own personality, we're gonna naturally we naturally are very religious people. Everybody's Christian in the United States. Everybody is you know, is even Muslim. And whatever it is, you pick your sect, you pick your dialogue, whether you're atheist, whatever it is, that within itself is a religion. Whatever it is, they're very connected with religion. And the key thing is religion is about habit, it's about routine. That's one of the major things about religion, and it's also about sacrifice to some extent. And so we're going to start working through healing ancestral guilt so that we're no longer sacrificing ourselves in order for another person to be happy while we are stuck left in the dirt. That's what's happening. And that's why people are leaving to go through a certain healing process that you're not going to do so well at in your homeland as an American citizen. And I see this very much happening and something that is going to start to manifest tremendously. So with that being said, you're going to start introspecting and reflecting and meditating more. And it's going to start increasing your empathy and your compassion and your gentle nature within your dialogue. Learning how to be a pure soul, but without fear. Because one of the biggest things of why Cancer decides not to be pure like the United States is because it's afraid to show its true identity. Because once it shows its true identity, it has more cards on the table and it no longer feels safe. And its safety is more important than, and you get the rest. So this Venus star point will gently force us to be a little more internally accepting of ourselves, which will make us less susceptible to gaslighting and ultimately media forms of manipulation, because we don't need to seek the governmental's approval and permission to think and feel what we feel. We don't need to seek a therapist, because you see here, the 7th house in Gemini, our mind, people's mind in the United States is freaking crazy. People are crazy. Like, literally look at the United States. The mind is completely unstable, right? And Gemini is approximately what? 5 to 9 years old. So 5 to 9 years old, think about it. People are like already starting to see therapists. It's like, yo, put the freaking kid outside, bro. Tell the kid to go outside and play in the dirt. You don't need to go see a therapist to tell them what they're thinking. They know what they're thinking. The way in which we try to control their thoughts, which you see Mercury and Cancer, the family, the ancestry trying to control their minds and control their thoughts, is creating a dissociation and a separation from reality and creating a deeper and innate fantasy where their imagination is just completely roaring and soaring in the realms of fantasy. And that's the moon owning Cancer in this United States chart. Moon owns Cancer, and the moon here is in, I got to get rid of this, down at the bottom, it is in the past life as well as Aquarius, whatever. Moon is in Aquarius. That's what I need to say. Moon is in Aquarius. And the moon in Aquarius in the United States is about helping everybody and literally sacrificing yourself and sacrificing yourself for the future, trying to think so far ahead of the future that you don't really live in the present. And again, this is a part of Cancer and Mercury are everyone's thinking about all of their worries and their anxieties, and therapies depend on that. And that's why so many people are sick and in mental health hospice cares, whatever, call it what you want, psychiatric, everybody's freaking psychotic, everybody is a psychopath in the United States, even the people that are sane. And it's why you see school shootings, literally Gemini being schools. You see the school shooting, you see all this, but it's again because of that Mars and Gemini in the 7th house. The United States doesn't. It's not healthy for you to stay around that stuff. And I think this Venus star point Gemini will start helping us choose the more harmonious narratives, and it's going to take and require you to take a risk to go and live yourself abroad, to move yourself and start taking in the mentality of the people who are not from your own sect, group, creed, religion. Okay. And really, I feel like this is going to ultimately be everything. So hit the thumbs up and likes button. If you enjoyed this, if you want to see more after the video is done, because I know I made it for members only so I can stay focused, just let me know in the chat that you enjoyed this, you want to see more like this. And I'll be going live with Eileen and Eileen Tato tomorrow. Okay. And I will see you soon. Thank you. I love you for being here. Ciao. Don't forget, Sunday, not tomorrow, 2 days from now, we're doing the ancestral guilt healing. So that's something interesting for you. It's $34. It's a one-time event. Every first and third Sunday, we're running another event. It's always going to change. This particular one is on ancestral guilt. So that's it. Hopefully we'll see you there. And obviously you always have a membership to join that we have. See you soon. Love you.